What's up, guys? Craig Mack here, Liberty Bell Beekeepers. So today's video is quick, I think. It's just about putting together frames. It's one of the necessary things. Unless you buy them pre-assembled, I buy them unassembled because they're cheap and I have the equipment to build them. But to me, it's something I think that everybody could do pretty simply and save yourself a couple of dollars by buying unassembled frames and putting them together yourself. Now you can buy any variety of frame, as you probably already know, or maybe you don't, but this is a groove top. I like the groove top and bottom frames. They're basically intended for foundation. They have the groove obviously cut into them. And as I said, most times are intended for a foundation, but I do my own foundation or go foundationless almost always in my brood box. Supers, I use foundation just because it's easier to uncap and get them back into the hives as quickly as possible. So I use foundation in my honey supers, but for my brood chambers, I like these because I have the option to do whatever I want. I can wax it, I can put a starter strip in it, I can put foundation in it, really whatever I wanted to do. And I got a couple of ideas of what I'm doing with these this year to get them ready. Now, I use a narrow crown stapler. This is a great tool. And I recommend actually beekeepers, even smaller beekeepers, maybe get a hold of one of these because you can get them very inexpensively, under $100 at one of your, Harbor Freights or Tractor Supply or something like that. It doesn't have to be a great one. And honestly, they're all pretty much the same thing, just a different company that builds them. Obviously, there's a quality difference in more expensive ones, but it's not that big a difference. And for small-time beekeepers or just somebody looking to save a buck, you can get these relatively inexpensively. I like a staple for frames because it's easy. This is an 1.5 inch narrow crown stapler. It has a 1/4 inch width, and it worked great for putting frames together, putting boxes together, anything with plywood or cabinetry. You can do repair work with this stuff, with this piece of equipment, and it's really worthwhile to have. Now, this is also a pneumatic a pneumatic stapler, which means you need a compressor that can fire up to about 80 pounds of pressure. But they do make battery operated versions of these as well. That when you weigh the cost between buying the gun and a compressor and the hose, it's about the same. It's not very much different. Now with that, obviously you have to have batteries, and those batteries don't last forever. I've always had air tools because of my job. I feel that they just work the best for me. I have them already. I'm not going to retool something that's continuing to work well for me. It is an extra piece of equipment I got to carry around in the tank and the hose, but it is what it is in my line of work. You carry tools around all the time. It's just part of the deal. Whether I'm carrying one tool or two, I'm still carrying tools. Now, there are plenty of racks that you could build for these. I don't build these with a rack. I just build them per frame, one frame at a time. It's boring and monotonous. It reminds me of my first job. I went to tech school for electronics, and in my first job, I got here's a little history. I got a job in an assembly factory, an assembly warehouse, putting together circuit boards for the Nielsen cable box ratings boxes, if anybody remembers those. That's how they tabulated statistics on channels. The box itself recorded it, and then they could pull that information from the box. So I was a board level component installer. I think at the time, minimum wage was like $4.25 or $4.50. And I think I was making something like $6.50 or $7 an hour, something like that, maybe. Part-time job for a 16-year-old kid. Actually, it was a full-time job. And then I went back part-time when I went back to school, but sat in a warehouse with with a bunch of old ladies and young people like me that just needed a job and something to do all day long. And we listened to oldies all day, and the oldie station here, you could set your clock by the songs they played, but it was still kind of interesting and fun. And it, for a first job, that's what they are. They're low paying, they're monotonous, they're boring, they're intended to be. To me, it was inspiration. I didn't want to do that for my life. Are you kidding me? It wasn't a job for that. It was a job to get you started, to get a little money in your pocket, to show you the responsibility of showing up on time and punching the time clock and, looking forward to your breaks and also wanting to do a good job at the same time, in spite of the fact that it was boring as hell. So I do these one at a time, and it's reminiscent, and usually I put my headphones on, put some music or a book or a lecture or something like that, and listen to that while I'm doing these, and find it very therapeutic at times. So as I said, I like to put these together one at a time, and this is how I do it. I take my end bars, which are just solid end bars. Sometimes I'll get the frames with the end holes, but these are just solid because that was what was available at the time. So I'll put my end bars on, and I'll put my frame together without any staples and just stand it up. And then usually I have a square handy, a speed square. These are, $5, $6. You can get them a little cheaper than that. And I'll just put it inside the frame. And make sure it's kind of square. Hit the bottom. Flip it over. Same thing on the top. Square it up. 4 staples, 2 up top, 2 in the bottom, and it works real well. I mean, I can yank on that pretty good, and it's not coming loose. So that's how I do it. Now, if I'm doing it just to do it, it's happening a lot faster than me explaining it to you. I'm just grabbing the pieces and going and doing this work. And a lot of times, if you get these things together, they'll be pretty square as long as the joints are butted up pretty well. And I'll just fire them in, not caring about the square. And if I have to, I just, I'll just put a check on it and bend it a little bit to where it is. But like I said, if you butt these things in there tightly, they go together and it's pretty square just to begin with. I know the racks you can do, 10 at a time, but you still got to set up all those pieces. And I don't know that it's any faster than doing this one at a time. I'm interested maybe in building one of those racks and comparing the two, but as for right now, this is how I do it, and I'm perfectly fine with doing it that way because, like I said, it's kind of reminiscent, and it does allow me time to not only get something productive done for my beekeeping and for my business, but also to have that found time to listen to a book, an audio book, or listen to a podcast. I'm a big proponent of books and podcasts. New media is amazing. YouTube and Spotify and all these streaming services for podcasts. There's so much information out there, as well as beekeeping podcasts as well. Although I don't listen to those all that much, I listen to other things and keep my beekeeping kind of personal. I try not to do what everybody else is doing. The beekeeping basics are the same across the board, but my situation is just that, it's mine. So I tailor it to my needs and suit it to my needs as best as I think I can and make my adjustments as I go along. And that's really what I always try to convey to new beekeepers is your position. You got all this information out there to go from, videos, commercial guys down south and beekeepers in Alaska and all over the United States and the world, showing you what they do and how they do it. The basics are all the same. Management and making splits and pulling honey, all that's the same, but your situation is different. You got to figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it, and what works best in both of those situations. And that's the best advice I think I can give anybody as far as getting into beekeeping and figuring out what it is that you're looking for to get from your beekeeping experience, whether it's a hobby or you're trying to make a little bit of money from honey, or you're whatever it is you're trying to do, become a commercial beekeeper. All those things are tailored to you, and certain things will work for you and other things won't that other people are doing. So do your best to try to figure out what's best for you. Thanks for watching, guys. I got to put these frames together and get my ass moving, because there's only a couple weeks left before I'm going to be behind, and I'm already feeling like I'm behind. Thanks for watching. Later.